Take a deep breath for me. Hello, I'm Kwan Siu. Chapter 9. Radiate Positivity. Now, just Radioactive. 27 June 2022, Monday. Before the break of dawn, I was being jolted away from the only place that had really been home to me, as the train station slowly disappeared from view, being replaced by lush vegetation and quiet hills, and a creep agitation started to spread throughout my body. I had a respite of 2 weeks, but that didn't make this torment any easier. Being a frequent traveler, pre-travel anxiety was the last thing anyone would expect from me, but I was fidgety all the same because today I was going to a place that had only given me angst and agony, and I didn't know how I would behave if I had to go through another standing procedure. I had a wonderful beach vacation with my family, mostly just eating and lying around doing nothing. I did not weigh myself, but I hope I gained the weight I lost. I felt very insecure against the wind in this frail existence. I was on oral antibiotics, and I brought along an assortment of painkillers, enough to survive mortal combat. Throughout this 1 week away, I spent every day in the sun because I missed it so much. Every morning after breakfast, I would find myself a deck chair to lie down at the beach. I loved the rhythmic sound of the waves and the warm breeze. Staring out to the sea, where Yoda and the kids enjoyed water sports, I was grateful for Yoda being an adventurous father. If it was up to me, the children would never know fun. Time seemed to slow down when I was at this tranquil spot with just my thoughts. I did wonder how Dr. Dewar was doing with his punishing schedule and all his wild pursuits. He was a person who truly deserved a break, yet didn't seem to want one. I was jolted back into his waiting room when Kiyomi called out my name. The moment of truth. "How was your holiday?" asked the ever-so-charming Dr. Dewar. "It was great. I am glad I went." As I was lying down on his examination table with the ultrasound probe gliding across my abdomen, I was too anxious to breathe. I didn't know what my pulse rate was, but it seemed like my heart was making an attempt to escape from my chest. "There is no change." "What do you mean?" "Your kidney looks like how it was 2 weeks ago." "That is good, right?" I asked guardedly, not knowing which direction this was going. "Yes, we don't need the stent. It has stopped getting bigger. There is hydronephrosis, but mild." "Phew, that was the best news ever. So what do we do now?" As if he heard my unasked questions. "Since you are here, can I suggest a MAC3 scan?" A MAC3 scan will identify the position and shape of the kidneys and assess how well each kidney is functioning compared to each other. This scan is also used to identify how well urine is draining from the kidneys and helps identify any blockage or obstruction that affects the flow of urine from the kidneys. The radioactive tracer, attached to a chemical, mercaptoacetyltriglycerin, also known as MAC3, which the scan is named after, is injected into the vein. The tracer will be absorbed by the kidneys where it then emits gamma rays. A gamma camera will then be used to detect the gamma rays and turn them into pictures. The small risk from this is outweighed by the information that will be gained by taking the test. Dr. Dewar didn't need to explain the scan to me. It was the scan that revealed to Wano that she had lost a kidney 2 years ago. Wano had a stricture and abrupt narrowing on one of her ureters, which caused functional obstruction. Her lack of diligence in her follow-up routine with Dr. Dewar after her stent removal had caused this deterioration to progress undetected. Considering you have had this condition from birth, and all the scar tissues pain and I saw during stenting, I think it is a good idea to assess how well this kidney is functioning and to see if there are other obstructions, Dr. Dewar continued to explain. How about a blood test? All blood tests will turn out well because the human body can survive with only one functioning kidney. We won't know if one kidney has failed. I was not sure if I wanted to do this. I preferred to let sleeping dogs lie. On the other hand, if one of my kidneys was not working, I would surely want to know. Sensing my indecision, Dr. Dewar continued, "Don't worry, there will be no needles, no drips, no catheters, nothing to worry about." So, time to embrace radioactivity. I was prepared for this day, although I didn't know what to expect before I arrived. Now that I knew standing was not needed, my suffocating churning left me. Although I was also not good with dealing with diagnostic scans, I was steadier with this one, despite the uncomfortable thought about being injected with a radioactive tracer. I unpacked and settled comfortably in my room when I heard a commotion outside. The door opened to admit Dr. Devo. "You should seriously consider moving here." This was an ongoing topic we quipped about in recent weeks. Exactly right. In the past month, I have slept on other beds more than my own bed. Yes, so it makes sense. All the rich and famous people reside here. Unfortunately, I am neither rich nor famous, so it's fine. I am okay where I am. You get faster access to better health care. He maintained his arrogance about life in the big city. To him, everywhere else was just a hamlet without proper sanitation. No, I just get faster access to you. You might regret it. If I live here, considering my level of anxiety, I will probably stalk you like a mad woman. You are already here most of the time, so the idea of moving here makes sense. Yes, exactly. I can get here whenever I want. It is no big deal. So distracted I was that I didn't notice he had pulled up a chair to sit beside me, ready to set the IV line. Since when did that trolley of torment come in? For a person who admitted that he had not done this for more than 30 years, he was suddenly doing this a lot. "Can I take a video for my son while you're at it? Usually, the nurses won't let me," I asked. "Sure, go ahead. You should encourage your children to pursue a career in the healthy industry," he suggested. "I work like you." "Our industry has no recession," he highlighted as if the very purpose of his crazy work schedule was just to stay employed. When he was done, he made arrangements for the Mach-3 scan. It was to be done at the Nuclear Medicine Institute in another establishment because it was not available here. He called them, and after speaking briefly, he hung up. "They will call me back for a confirmation," he informed me. While waiting, he explained to me what would happen during the scan. A few minutes later, the institute called him back and the appointment was set. I would receive a text confirmation soon and the nurses would make logistics arrangements. After he left, only did I realize what happened to his promise of no needles during this admission. 28 June 2022, Tuesday. I was up very early because I had to be ready for the 6:45 a.m. shuttle, which would ferry me to the Institute for the Mach-3 scan. My appointment was at 7:30 a.m. and I was a little anxious I would be late for it, considering the rush hour traffic. Traffic jams consume a big fragment of everyone's time in the city. This was something I didn't need to stress about back home. I was always able to accomplish more in a day and I had taken that convenience for granted. I waited for my ride in the lobby. It was still dark outside. Apart from the concierge and security guard, not a single person was inside. It was funny that the nurses wouldn't let me get to and back from Dr. Devo's clinic alone, but let me out of the ward without escort to get in a vehicle that would ferry me away from the hospital. I would have absconded at any point of the journey if I wanted to. The concierge came over to get me when my ride arrived. It was a comfortable 7-seater MPV. I took a picture of the license plate and turned on my live location for Vano. This was the only way for me to ease her worry. She was not comfortable with this arrangement. She wanted her husband to come over to send me, and I really didn't want to inconvenience him. As I approached the vehicle, 2 passengers came out and went into the hospital. The driver, Ali, came around to introduce himself and saw me safely into the vehicle. Ali was a very cordial middle-aged man. Throughout the 30-kilometer journey, we became friends. Who were those people who got down earlier? It is very early to be in the hospital, I asked out of curiosity. They are there for kidney dialysis. I fetched them to the hospital twice a week from their homes, explained Ali. The mention of kidney dialysis caused my heart rate to rise, revealing that my underlying apprehension about kidney issues still lingered in the depths of my subconscious. Ali noticed my sudden silence and generously kept the conversation going. I was grateful for that because after about 50 minutes, I noticed my pulse settle back to its leisurely beat and I didn't feel like throwing up anymore. Approaching our destination, Ali asked that I take down his phone number so that I could call him directly when I was done. Following my drop-off, he needed to head to the airport to pick up a patient who was arriving today with her family. I hopped out of the vehicle when Ali stopped at the entrance. It was early hours and the lobby was empty, although very brightly lit. As I stepped in, I didn't feel like I was in the hospital at all. The granite and marble-clad double-volume interior was adorned with crystal chandeliers and tall palm trees, with comfortable lounge chairs scattered in various corners. The long marble reception counters were unmanned at this hour. A few people were walking about, whom I assumed to be family members of inpatients. All of a sudden, I felt very dreary in my very worn lounge clothes, which I packed specifically for comfort. Luckily, I had a long wool cardigan with me to at least hide part of my ghastly attire. I looked for signs to direct me to the Nuclear Medicine Institute, where I would have my scan. Despite following the signs, I still managed to get lost. This place was huge and complicated. It was too early for enough staff to be around for me to ask for help, and those that were available were not entirely familiar with the layout of the hospital as well. After I went up and then down several floors, I finally managed to locate my destination in the basement. This area was even more brightly lit, with a futuristic decor which reminded me of Star Trek's USS Enterprise. I was almost running to avoid being late, but alas, it was unnecessary. I was made to wait. When my name was called, a young and pleasant technician who introduced himself as Stanley escorted me to the changing rooms to change into a gown and a robe. He then checked my IV line. Looking at the fading bruises on both my arms and the back of my hands, he was utterly shocked. What happened to this woman? He must wondered, but was too polite to ask. The person who set this line is very skilled, he commented. Yes, he is. He's my urologist, I told him proudly. Oh, wow, really? It is very nice of him to do this for you. Yes, he is extraordinary. Looking at both your arms, I think it will be very challenging for any nurses or doctors, and we will probably cause you a lot of discomfort. I am sure you will be as good with practice. Stanley then noticed I was shivering. Are you cold? Do you want me to turn down the aircon? I am probably just nervous. It always happens before scans. Stanley walked over to the cupboard, took out a huge heated blanket, and came over to wrap me in it. With my newfound comfort, my agitation reduced. What are we waiting for? I asked. Because I couldn't be in a queue, there was hardly anyone. We are waiting for the preparation of the tracer, Stanley replied. It is time-sensitive. Although Stanley offered some explanation, I did not pretend to understand. Learning about anatomy from Dr. Dewo was all good and well, but chemistry was really not my friend, and I had no intention for it to be. Stanley stayed with me to keep me company, and I was glad. We chatted about various subjects, but I was most entertained by his funny patient encounters. Regardless of his skill in setting up an IV line, with his tactfulness and compassion, I knew he would be great at what he was doing. When the tracer was brought to where I was, Stanley stepped aside to give way for a doctor to inject it through my IV line. I had probably watched too many sci-fi cartoons when I was little until I was half expecting tubes of glowing neon liquid held in mated steel jigs with dry steam floating around it, but it was really just plain, colourless, clear liquid. How boring. But it was also a reminder to us that radioactivity is invisible. I was then escorted into the room that housed the scanner. The machine didn't look very intimidating, almost similar to the donut of the CT scanner despite its fancy surroundings. Every care had been taken to make the room as futuristic and calming as possible. Neon lavender ambience lighting, dark ceiling, soft music, yet it did not soothe my pulse. At this point, we could conclude that everything made me jump. It did not escape my attention that there were a series of highlighted simple instructions on the wall and emergency response equipment right below it, for use in crisis situations, which sounded very possible that they might occur. I always overthought everything because I noticed everything. Being observant was both a blessing and a curse. When I was comfortably strapped to the scanning table, Stanley positioned the gamma camera above my abdomen. It was just a plain grey box that looked like an X-ray generator. I was not sure why I was asked to stretch out my arm with the IV cannula and told not to move it throughout the scan. I was too nervous to ask and too worried that it might get numb at mid-scan, but Stanley, being Stanley, as he was rechecking everything before the commencement of the scan, explained to me that if it was necessary to inject more drugs into my system during mid-scan, they didn't want it to cause any unnecessary movement. Did I mention that I had to be very still for the next 45 minutes or so? Okay, we are ready. I will see you in a bit. But please call for me if you need to. I am just next door, assured Stanley. The ceiling was a huge display of the underwater world. There were fish and some sea creatures. Since I had nothing to do while lying there, I started counting fish. There were 87 of them of various sizes, including those hiding amongst the corals and rocks. I was very sure because I repeated this process 9 times. I thought I might fall asleep, but I didn't. Just when I thought the scan was complete, Stanley came over to inject a diuretic to purge as much of the radioactive tracer out of my system as possible. I was then asked to go to the toilet to relieve myself, but that was not the end. I had to go back to the scanner so that Stanley could make sure the tracer had completely drained from my body. "We're done, Kwansu." "That was not so bad, right?" asked Stanley. "I suddenly feel like I can glow in the dark." "Yes. You might feel a little warm. The diuretic purges a lot of fluid out of your system. Drink plenty of water when you get back," Stanley advised. "I will collect your report from the radiologist and bring it to you in the waiting room." With that, I went back to the changing room, got dressed, and looked for the way out of this maze. I managed to make my way to the waiting room, which was beginning to fill with people. There was a water dispenser, so I sat next to it and started drinking. Stanley appeared later with my report in hand, as promised. "Here you go." "Thank you." "How are you getting back to your hospital?" Stanley inquired out of good manners. "They will send someone to come get me. I just need to find my way to the entrance. I got lost this morning." It was supposed to be just a joke, but Stanley took it very seriously. "Do you want me to walk you there? I can do that." "Oh, no, not that I am ungrateful, but I think I can slowly find my way. I don't want to take you away from here with so many patients waiting," I insisted. Although I was not sure, I didn't think I would be entirely lost, so I slowly made my way to the main floor. As the lift doors opened, I was in for a surprise. While the entire level was empty this morning, there was a crowd now. As I stepped slowly out of the lift, I couldn't recognize the area surrounding it. Shops and restaurants were open now, and they somehow looked different than when they were closed this morning. I was in such a mess. Although there were plenty of signs everywhere, they were all directing visitors to various clinics and departments, and not a single one showed the way out. Just then, my phone rang. "Are you done?" It was Dr. Devo. "Yes." "Are you still there? Is someone coming to get you? Do you want me to call the ward?" "I am fine." The driver gave me his number. "Do you have your report? Are you bringing it back with you? Have you seen it?" He asked me 7 questions since I picked up his call, yet only allowed me to answer 2. "Yes, the report is with me, but I have not looked at it yet. Can you take a picture of your report and send it to me?" Impatient much? "I am going to have to do that later because I think I am lost." "What? Serious? How can you get lost in the hospital?" "Yes, because I like to take the scenic route. Have you called the driver? I have to find the exit first. I will call you back." When I finally found the lobby, I wasn't sure if it was the right one because there were a few. It would be very messy if I was waiting at this entrance and Ali picked me up at another. I had to walk outside to check if those were the buildings I saw this morning before I came in. When I was sure, I found a comfortable couch and called Ali. He was already on his way. Yay! I took out my report from its heavy envelope and tried to make some sense of it, but not being able to understand it completely created a certain degree of worry. I wished I had not looked at it. I scanned every page into my phone and sent them to Dr. Devo. My ride back to the hospital was uneventful. "Did you manage to get to the airport on time?" I asked Ali. Yes, and the patient is now settled at the hospital, Ali replied happily. That is great. They were so in awe of our country, I felt so proud, announced Ali smugly. I know, right? It is a wonderful feeling for a host. So were you also a tour guide as well? Yes, I pointed out to them all the landmarks that we passed by. Ali had the perfect qualities for this job. Jovial, friendly, chatty, and helpful. Truly a people person. Very soon, we arrived at the hospital. Upon stepping into my ward, Natasha came to ask me for my scan report, which she would make a copy to be filed together in my folder. I smelled the aroma of lunch and knew that I could finally eat soon. Dr. Dewo came to see me after his workday, ready to explain my MAC3 scan report. I don't see anything that we need to be worried about, observed Dr. Dewo. He continued with his explanation. Your right kidney is functioning at a slightly lower percentage, which is very good considering we have removed almost half of it. Isn't that low? The fitter left kidney now needs to work harder at a higher percentage, as long as both percentages add up to 100. I don't like the last paragraph, I pointed out. Yes, poor drainage without diuretic. That is because of your kink ureter. Fluid remains in there longer compared to the average functioning kidney, but everything came out after the diuretic injection, right? That tells us there are no obstructions, so it is good news. Nothing we should be worried about. From the images of the scan, I could still see traces of gamma in my left kidney even after the diuretic injection, which would take another day or two to fully flush out. So, right this moment, I was a radioactive person. You do realize what this scan is trying to tell us, right? What? You should not gulp down huge amount of water at any one go because your right kidney cannot drain as fast. A sudden build-up can cause you pain. How much is too much? Try 200 milliliter regularly. What? I would probably just spend my day just drinking water and peeing. What about a little bit more? Do you have an obsession to torture yourself? So it was a no. Your culture test result comes out tomorrow. If there are no surprises, you can go home. After Dr. Dewo left, my mind went through everything that transpired in recent months, with the outcome from this MAC3 scan being the main focus of my contemplation. With this done, I could finally put my worry about the threat to my urinary system to rest, despite its imperfection. But it was an imperfection that I could accept. I just needed to establish a new hydration habit, be diligent with my follow-up and monitoring schedule, and not avoid treatment where necessary. Compared to losing a kidney like Wano, this change was very manageable. Being grateful doesn't mean that life is necessarily good. It just means that you can accept it as a gift, quoted Roy Bennett. 29 June 2022, Wednesday. You have an infection, Dr. Dewo announced when I picked up his call. Again? Yes, again. But I can still go home today, right? Yes, but I have to give you a course of antibiotics for it. So I went home with another week of medication. Stagnation of fluid in the kidney created the perfect environment for bacteria to breed. For the time being, there was a possibility that I would be prone to infection, so I should not be ignorant. Thank you very much for listening. If you would like to keep following the story, click here to listen to the next chapter. And if you're new, you can start from the beginning by listening to the full playlist here. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll know when the next chapter is released. Until then, take care, take a deep breath, and I'll see you in the next one.